Alright, the first stage that is great for testing units on is Special Battle Stage 1. Now, this is the Rose Masu fight. It's a very quality fight to test units on because of the locking. AoE Rose can hit very hard. It just gives you a good metric of what units can look like in the short meta. This is a very good stage and embodiment of what short meta is in the current state of Dokkan, especially because you have Blue Zone fights, right? Like the Super Saiyan Gohan and the Super Saiyan Trunks, which hit ridiculously hard. And though some consider that a gimmick fight, of course, I would say it's still something to note, of course. I mean, it's not like we're going to see 16 mil supers become common. At least I don't think so. Not yet. I mean, it will eventually become common, but right now, what Rose and Zamasu show is a fight that if you kill them quick enough, you don't have to deal with the repercussions of 24 mil super, and it just shows how important damage has become in this meta, which I never thought I would say. It's been a defensive meta for a very long time, and it still kind of is. Of course, if you can tank the 24 mil super, then it doesn't matter how much damage you're doing. But for example, G4, his incredible amount of damage potential allows him to protect his team from dealing with Rose's ridiculous AoEs and supers because he kills them so quickly that they have a limited amount of turns where they have to face him. So I really do enjoy this fight. I mean, a lot of people do think it's toxic due to the locking and the AoEs and all that stuff. I understand there's a lot of gimmicks in this fight that make it tough to deal with. Rose hits ridiculously hard, but we have enough units now where it's definitely clearable, and this fight is definitely in the consideration of when they're creating units. Like, I mean, the Gohan and the Broly, I'm talking about the BoJack movie Gohan and the Tech DBS Broly coming out, can both tank that super. Of course, Broly needs stacks and he needs to be fully built up defensively in order to be able to handle it on an active turn. And then of course the Tech DBS Gogeta can just straight up dodge it. So they definitely keep a lot of this stuff in mind when they're creating newer units, new premium units coming out in the future. And I'm not saying every single unit's going to tank a 24 mil super, but maybe they have dodge a part of their kit or something. Like maybe they debuff. Maybe they hit ridiculously hard, so it allows them to get some value that way too. I'm not 100% certain how they're going to function things in the future, but I do think if you know this unit's going to be good in short meta, I would give them a shot in Special Battle Stage 1 just to get an idea of how well they can handle that meta. Again, I mean, we're not expecting units to tank a 24 mil super. I don't think that's why you use this fight. You use this fight to understand, are they able to handle the current bosses we have that are, you know, dominating the short meta, which are these special battle fights, which are these blue zone fights, right? And these guys are hitting like 10, 11, 12 mil. So of course, outside the Gohan and the Trunks. So if they can't handle that level of damage or that kind of content, then maybe they're not meant for this meta, or maybe they're just meant for Festival of Battles. But I think this is a great stage to get an idea of how units look like. Next, we have Special Battle Stage 4, and I really like this stage because unlike the Rose and Zamasu fight, it's pretty straightforward, right? It's just Gogeta. Now, Gogeta racks up very quickly, and he can do some pretty crazy damage by turn 4. So again, it kind of fits the mold and the theme of what this meta is about, which is you're trying to kill the opponent before they get too strong, right? By the time G4 gets to turn 4, it's not like unbearable. Like, you can definitely handle it, but again, you can't debuff G4. And then, of course, on top of that, he's just constantly building up. He has his double supers, and yes, he is scripted, so if you know that script, it is a good idea to do that. But also the fact that he's scripted helps you get your units in the proper position to take these supers. A lot of times when you're trying to showcase units or you're trying to get a feel for units, you're kind of playing RNG simulator, trying to figure out, is this person going to super in this slot? Are they going to super in this slot? You know, because you're just trying to get understanding of how well this unit can tank in certain scenarios with this linking partner, with this many stacks, or this many times he got hit, or whatever, right? I don't know exactly what you're looking for when you're looking to test out a unit, but for example, G4 is a very predictable formula. Turns 1 through 3, he supers on slot 2 and 3, and then and then turn 5, he could super, I think, both times in slot 1, and then or slot 1 or slot 3. But I know for certain he always supers in slot 1 at least, right? Outside of that, I don't know if he has a script. He might. I just don't remember it. I just know that the first 4 turns are scripted very predictably, so you can go around that and get a feel, of course. And then again, if the unit has a ton of damage, you can be like, oh, okay, well, this unit is very good because they can get through this fight very quickly, and you don't have to fight maxed out Gogeta, or if they're double digit tanking Gogeta supers. That's something to look at as well. But again, a lot of these units to this day are going to be short meta units, so you really want to get a feel on how well they can handle some of these attacks early on. Again, like Broly, for example, he loses his damage reduction by turn 5. So is this a unit that's either a part of a team that can get rid of G4 by turn 4, or does he have the potential to get rid of G4 by turn 4? Either way, right, for that unit to be good in short meta, he needs to be able to survive Rosemasu and G4, and sure, the Blues and Omega. I'm not putting them on this list because I just don't think they have enough stuff, in my opinion, to be considered test fights. For example, like the Omega fights is more predatory on floaters like Super Easy 8 Omega or Fizz Pan, or those units who are not meant to go in slot 1, right? They're supposed to get them to slot 1 and then lock when they die. And I'm not saying Rosemasu doesn't also do the same thing, but there's a lot more things in Rosemasu's fight that allows them to be a good playground for testing units, the high damage, AoEs, and all that stuff. Omega does have AoEs, but his AoEs are not that strong. His locking is, you know, annoying, but his super damage is not that high. It's only 6 mil. So, I mean, he's a fight you can use, of course. I'm not saying you can't use that fight. I just don't think it has enough stuff a part of the fight that makes it unique or a good benchmark for units to do it. I mean, if they beat Omega, that's a great cherry on top, but I wouldn't call it the meat of a showcase you're looking for a unit. Alright, next we have Blue Zone Stage 5. Once again, another short fight. This fight is really meant to only go about 4 to 5 turns, so you really want to make sure this unit can help create the environment where you can get to turn 4 or turn 5 and they're dead. Like, again, Goten and Trunks, for example, they need to be dead before Gohan starts building up and Gohan starts getting his crazy attack stats, because you're not going to be able to handle AoEs and double super from Goten and Trunks while having dodge canceling and crit supers that are like doing 5 mil from the Gohan. It's just not a feasible way to win. So if these units that are coming out, which they have, for example, you know, like the AGL Golden Frieza, he can do some pretty crazy damage if you're under 50% HP, or of course, the LR Tech Golden Frieza / Gogeta. You know, you can change him to DBS Gogeta, do some crazy damage, have 100% dodge, all that stuff, right? Like, those are the things you have to consider when you look at these units. Are they helping to contribute to the whole team and helping to get rid of these bosses faster? That's the main contribution. Second, of course, is being able to tank and support and all that other stuff too, which a lot of these units do right now. But I think all of that has to be measured into what you're looking for in units. So this is another good stage. It's another duo fight, but it's not toxic. There's no locking. There is AoEs, and they do hit hard, but it's just a general fight, right? You're free to move around. There's no seals, so you just need to learn and just make sure you craft a team that can be able to handle these fights well. But just for new units in general, right, you want to see how much they take from a Goten and Trunks super on turn 2, or maybe how much they take from a fully built up Gohan, which is not an ideal situation you'll see, but I mean, beating this fight is a good benchmark to understand how strong this unit is going to be. There's another example of short meta. Once again, I'm not including, I mean, we'll get to it later. I will talk about it a little bit more later, but I do think the Trunks and Gohan Blue Zone fights are not necessarily something you want to measure your units on, of course, unless they're just tanking Trunks and then the Gohan, which, you know, some units can do, and that is very oppressive and some things you have to consider in their ranking. But I just don't think that's what I'm going to say is the benchmark, unless it becomes a common thing or units can start tanking that and it becomes an expectation. Then sure, we can start bringing these fights into, hey, we got to start ranking units off of this fight. But I just don't think it's necessarily something we should rank off. Again, I'll talk about it later, but I think stage 5 is a good stage. Out of all 5 of them, it's a true stage with real bosses. It's not like you have to beat them super quickly, or oh, it's not really that hard of a boss and they triple super. I just think it's a good overall stage to get an ideal feel of the short meta. All right, let's rewind the clock a little bit. Let's look at some anniversary stage units, because this is going to get you a feel of what long meta looks like. Now, the first one we're going to look at is the Vegeta Story stage 10, which is against the Super Saiyan Blue Goku. I mean, it's pretty straightforward. It's a predictable fight. He double supers. You know, so he starts slow and he slowly builds up into his max potential, which is the meta we are in, by the way. It is not a quote-unquote short fight because he has 1.5 billion HP, but it is a one-phase fight where he is constantly building up every turn. So in a way, this fight still fits the mold of the meta we are in, which is one fight, you know, but this constantly, as the fight is going on, this boss is getting stronger, which, yes, technically every boss has that mechanic, but I'm more so just talking about one fight. Like, there's not another phase. This is the only fight, the big fight, the final fight, and that boss is constantly getting stronger gradually, so you need to kill them fast before they get to full potential. The only difference is you're not going to kill this Goku that fast, and also when he's maxed out, it's not really that scary for most of these units. So really the only reason why I have it on this list, since this fight is definitely more obsolete than current meta fights that we have, is just more so to get a feel of long form units. Of course, at the same time, you want to get a feel of units that you currently have, and if they should be able to take this stage just fine, but if they're not, maybe it raises some concerns about longevity of certain units. But really, I think it's just to get a better feel of long form meta, because unless you're doing about 150 mil every turn, this is gonna take about 7 to 10 turns, maybe even 15, to kill this blue Goku. So you're gonna be fighting him for a very long time, just constantly just chipping away at his HP. And so you need, if that's the case, then you can, for units that stack, for example, the new Broly, it'd be a good idea to throw him in there and get a feel of how high his ceiling could be in a normal scenario outside of festival battles, of course. So I think this is a good test stage. I really did wish, and do wish, that the Red Zone fights, the new ones we had for the Pure Stance Red Zone, just had a little more stuff like this for us to test. Like the Majin Vegeta fight would have been a nice test fight. Vegeta hits pretty hard very quickly, but in my opinion, he just doesn't have enough HP. And then of course the Kaba fight is pretty interesting as well. But my only concern there is just more so, it's a long fight, but it's not that difficult until you get to Super Saiyan 2, and fully built up Kaba can be a problem, but I just don't know if I would say it's really a test stage, just due to the nature of how easy the first two stages are. But we'll kind of talk about a little bit more on this next one, why maybe you could consider it, but I probably won't yet. So let's look at the Vegeta Story Stage 9, and heck, you could look at Goku Story Stage 9 as well if you really want, because they're quite literally the same. Now, they're not designed the same, of course. They do have different gimmicks. For example, the Goku side has the locking on the Jiren phase. Yes, Vegeta's side also has locking, but of course the Jiren has AoEs on Goku's side, and then on Vegeta's side, of course, Toppo just hits really, really hard. But for the most part, the nature of these fights are about the same. You go through 5 phases, you get to the final boss, which is Jiren. One's full power, one's base form. They hit really hard, and there's some gimmicks in between. The reason why this is a good stage is, again, if you're looking to kind of understand what long meta might look like for some of these units, these bosses are still somewhat difficult enough to be considered like, hey, maybe if I kind of want to test out how this unit looks in a scenario like this may be an idea for you to look at either one of these two fights. Again, I won't say, like, I'm not sitting here and be like, oh yeah, like this fight is really hard right now. It's not. I mean, they can catch some of your floaters with the locking and then AoEs, and then of course the Int Jiren on Goku's fight always turn 1 supers. So, you know, maybe there is some stuff like that can cause issues for you, but the giant power creep that existed between the Anniversary and Golden Dokkan campaign does not make these fights really feel that difficult, but they are pretty bulky units, or sorry, bosses, and they do hit, you know, decently hard enough to measure and get an understanding and a reading of how hard these fights are. But more so, it's just the nature of these fights that are just, quite frankly, long, that allow you to have a good playground for units to shine, that are meant for longer form meta. That's not, of course, Festival of Battles. It's just a more controlled space for it, which is why I have Vegeta Story and Goku Story Stage 9 on here. They're still good fights. They're not difficult, of course. Neither is the Super Saiyan Blue Goku fight. It's just what we have right now for long form meta. Again, I would include maybe Red Zone Kaba, because again, Red Zone Kaba is stronger than those 3 fights in my opinion. But it's still not like I'm sitting here like, oh my gosh, you tanked Red Zone Kaba, that's like a huge thing, or oh my gosh, I beat Red Zone Kaba, that's a huge accomplishment. Like, it's just not, it's not a hard fight, but it's definitely a better benchmark, and it has somewhat the longevity, but it's just, you're going to get to turn probably 8 to 10 in the Vegeta Story and Goku Story fights, maybe even a little later if you had some bad luck. In the Kaba fight, you're probably getting a turn 6 or 7. It's just not long enough as well for me to consider it something to help you gauge how units may look in a longer form meta. But I do think they're worth mentioning, and of course I think Kaba's stage is worth mentioning, but it's just not difficult enough. So maybe stage 5 and stage 6 have more stuff prepared for us to allow us to get a better playground for units, but currently I think these are my main 6 stages that I would use to test units. And really I only use the first 3 because most units right now are being crafted for that short meta or festival battles. There's basically no in between. I mean, the Broly is kind of your example of an in between, but I really would mostly be thinking on units that are good in short meta. All right, finally, we're going to talk about today is the honorable mentions for this video. Now, it's just more like, again, I've already talked about the stage 2 and 3 earlier, right? I only mentioned those 2 because they hit very hard. Now, the only reason why I do not like the stage 2 or 3 as a true test stage is just because it's not realistic to expect bosses to hit 21 mil supers or 16 mil supers on turn 2 or 3. It's just not realistic. Now, in the future, if these bosses show up on turn 7 and 8 and 9 and 10, sure, like those, you've had enough time to prepare yourself, and it still is going to be difficult. It's not like, oh, you had 10 turns to stack, now it's gonna be very easy. Like, no, I mean, but you've had time to at least get yourself in a position where your units are not gonna get blown back to Timbuktu, since they are taking supers that are like over 20 mil. You know, that's just not an expectation, when for Anniversary the highest main big boss supers that are not like fully built up and stuff like that was 6 mil in these red zone fights. Like, that, it was not high at all. So like, we went from 6 mil to expecting units to take 20 plus mil supers. That's just not realistic. Again, if they can do it due to certain scenarios, for example, the Bojack, maybe Gohan on his full passive up in his first 4 turns with some of the Int, Goten, and Trunks actives up, and you know, with a decent amount of links up, he can tank a fully built up Rose, right? That's great and that's awesome, but is, first of all, you're only going to see that in the first 4 turns, and then he doesn't fall off. It's just you're gonna need a good amount of orbs to keep him alive moving forward, and of course some stacks in order to handle some bosses, like in the future, if we have a 15 mil super boss at the end of these fights, that Bojack movie Gohan is going to struggle just a tad until either he gets more orbs or he gets enough stacks. So it's just, in my opinion, not something we should expect just yet. I think it's a cool feat, right? Like, if you do it, great, that's awesome for you, you've done it. Like, that's something to note down in the current meta we are in, but I do think that they shouldn't be like a main stage to test on. But again, if you want to, feel free to do so. I'm not going to stop you, but let me know what you guys think in the comments below. Do you guys agree with this list? Do you guys disagree? This is just my personal favorites to go into that I think are very enjoyable, and of course, just a good way to test and get a feel of certain units we have in the game. But anyways, let me know what you guys think in the comments below. If you guys enjoyed the video, click the first link in the description below to all of my voice content in general, and the second one's gonna be to all of my Dokkan Battle content videos all together. And don't forget to click the link in the description below for those for the G Fuel code, 20% off on any order if you use code LR24 at checkout. And I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye bye.